The collapse of the defense of Pokrovsk, Russian forces cut off western supply routes to Pokrovsk. What a blow! Good day, dear friends. As always, we are here with you daily to analyze the situation on the front lines. But before diving into the military developments, let me touch briefly on the political aspect. Yesterday, Michael Watts, an advisor to Donald Trump on national security, gave an interview in which he mentioned preparations for a meeting between Trump and Putin. This meeting is expected to take place soon, possibly within the next couple of months. What do you think these negotiations will lead to? Share your opinions in the comments. Now let's move on to the frontline developments. Before we begin, I sincerely ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription helps support its growth. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. Frontline update. Today I'd like to discuss two fronts that we rarely touch upon due to the many events occurring elsewhere. Nonetheless, the developments in these areas are no less important or interesting. The two fronts I refer to involve footholds being established by the Russian army, which are clearly intended as staging grounds for future assaults on key cities. First, Kharkiv region. One foothold is on the right bank of the Oskol River, with the ultimate goal being the city of Kupyansk. Yesterday, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that Russian forces had taken control of the settlement of Kalinov. This is an abandoned hamlet located north of Kupyansk. Although the settlement itself has been deserted for over 20 years and has no strategic population value, its location is significant for expanding the Russian foothold on the right bank of the Oskol River. Kalinov is situated on the slope of a hill, meaning its capture also gives Russian forces control over a commanding height. The capture of higher ground provides Russian forces with a tactical advantage, especially as they push toward the village of Zakydne. If Zakydne is taken, the Ukrainian armed forces will lose control of all elevated positions in the area, leaving them vulnerable as the Russians advance toward Kivsharivka and ultimately Kupyansk. The situation in the Kharkiv region is clear. Russian forces are steadily expanding their foothold, albeit at a slow but confident pace. Second, Donetsk region. A second foothold is being established along the right bank of the Zherebets River. On the left bank lies the long-contested village of Terny, where battles have raged since March. In late December, Russian forces conducted an airborne operation, capturing the village of Ivanivka on December 26th. This operation caught the Ukrainian forces off guard, forcing them to retreat westward. Although Ukraine attempted counterattacks, Ivanivka remains under firm Russian control. Russian forces are now advancing from Ivanivka toward the village of Kolyadivka, which is significant for two reasons. First, it expands the Russian foothold along the Zherebets River, and second, a road from Kolyadivka leads directly to the city of Lyman, which is the main target in this sector. According to reports, Russian forces are already within 1 kilometer of Kolyadivka, and decisive battles are expected soon. Third, Pokrovsk sector. On the western flank near Pokrovsk, Russian forces have advanced from the village of Solon and managed to drive Ukrainian forces out of a quarry, bringing them within just over 1 kilometer of the village of Udakne. Fighting for Udakne may begin as early as today. The village is home to one of Ukraine's largest mines, and its loss would deal a significant blow to Ukraine's economy and the oligarch who owns it. Additionally, reports indicate that in the Chasiv Yar sector, as of January 13th, Ukrainian forces have abandoned the refractory plant. What are your thoughts on these developments? Feel free to share them in the comments. After Russian armed forces cut off the supply road to Ukrainian forces in the area and held their positions, it was inevitable. The Ukrainian Armed Forces, UAF, have made honest attempts to push Russian troops out of the railway station area. Moreover, they are still trying to do so through short counterattacks. It's clear that the UAF command on this section has not revoked the order to hold the remaining parts of the city at all costs. Fighting also continues south of the city, particularly along the highway to Kostyantinivka, Toretsk direction, January 13th. In Ukrainian media, debates continue over how much of the city the UAF still controls. Optimists, who haven't lost hope yet, claim that nearly a quarter of the city remains under UAF control. Pessimists estimate it at just 5%. However, everyone agrees that the complete loss of control over the city is now just a matter of time. For the Russian army, the primary objective remains the same: driving the UAF out of the area surrounding the Toretsk mine. The rest of the grey zone, which some Ukrainian information sources still claim is under their control, is almost fully occupied by Russian forces, who are consolidating their positions. The battles in Shcherbinivka and Petrovka have been temporarily paused. Resistance from the UAF in these areas is far stronger than in Toretsk. It appears that the remaining UAF forces in this sector are being redeployed to defend the strategically important settlements west of these areas, and they are managing to hold for now. Pokrovsk direction, January 13th. Russian forces near Udakne and Kotlin. The depletion of UAF reserves is particularly evident north of Pokrovsk. Recently, Russian forces broke through stubborn UAF resistance near the quarry and, as of yesterday, physically cut off the road from Medjeve to Pokrovsk. They have now reached the outskirts of Udakne and Kotlin. As a result, an assault on these two critical settlements for encircling Pokrovsk from the west could begin imminently, possibly even today. This rapid advance, after nearly a week of stagnation, suggests that UAF reserves in the area are exhausted, forcing them to retreat. It would be significant if it turns out that, as in Selidov and the battles south of Pokrovsk, the UAF command made the same mistake, deploying unprepared reserves into combat and completely depleting them. This would leave them with no forces to defend critical villages. Novopavlivka direction, January 13th. Let's follow the Ukrainian media's lead and rename this sector from the Kurakhove direction to the Novopavlivka direction. Yesterday, after significant events, the entry of Russian troops into the eastern outskirts of Andriivka and the capture of Yantana, there was relative calm. Or rather, not calm, but preparations for the next major strike, which, in my opinion, will put an end to the Ukrainian forces' struggle in the Darka pocket. The situation for the UAF here is catastrophic. Logically, the UAF command should have withdrawn their soldiers from the pocket long ago, but logic doesn't seem to apply here. The political leadership in Kiev is still hesitant to officially declare Kurakhove as lost. As a result, UAF soldiers continue to perish in the pocket in significant numbers. Meanwhile, the threat to Andriivka from the north is growing, as is the threat to Kostiantynivka from the south. The coming days will reveal how this unfolds. Bohoyavlenka, Velyka Novosilka. Direction, January 13th. The blockade of Velyka Novosilka tightens. It seems that the UAF garrison in the Velyka Novosilka area is on the verge of collapse. After nearly 3 weeks of blockade, the enemy has noticeably weakened, and the garrison's ability to resist has significantly diminished. This was evident in recent battles for Neskuchny, where Russian forces gradually pushed out the enemy and secured the settlement. Yesterday, Russian assault units occupied new positions north of Velyka Novosilka, along the eastern bank of the Mokry Yali River. This has allowed them to tighten their fire control over the only dirt road connecting the garrison with the rest of the territory still under Kiev's control. From this, I conclude that the collapse of the UAF grouping in Velyka Novosilka is imminent. That's all for today's Frontline Update. Wishing you a good day, or a peaceful remainder of the day, depending on your time zone. Take care of yourselves.